What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dogs and Hogs. I got it right this time.
Dogs and Hogs.
Dogs and Hogs with Russ Tanner, Bobby Andrews. We are here, just us two. No Roddy behind the scenes, just us two running the show tonight. Russ, got a lot to talk about. UGA football, some barbecue. Let's get into it. How about this past weekend? Georgia beat UAB 49-21. I'm pretty
21. They snuck one in late on us. Yeah.
Tell me about that game, because from my perspective on that game, it looked like from a fan perspective, it's like, how does UAB put up 21 points on us? Tell me what you saw.
Well, turnovers, right? Because we had the Makai Muse on the phone on the was it the punt or the kickoff?
Yeah,
the punt. And then so we had two turnovers that led to two quick ones. And I don't even remember the last score. They punched one in late, I think, in the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah.
That one doesn't really count. Yeah. You got backups. They're still running their full speed stuff. They got all their dudes in. Zeno's still in at quarterback for them. So that happens. They've got their top guys in against guys for us that don't even know where to line up half the time. So the last one kind of snuck in. But the first two, man, are they're what's the word, Russell? They're a product of turnovers. So if you turn the ball over and give them a short field, it takes one guy messing up. Georgia so far this year on defense has done a really good job. We've talked about this year how the front four of Georgia is not as elite as they have been in the past few years. Again, we're not knocking the guys there, but you don't have Jalen Carter. You don't have Devontae White. Don't have Jordan Davis. And even this week, Michael Williams was out. So Georgia's defense has been a whole lot of allow them to throw the ball in front of you. And then those DBs we got are freaking dogs.
Yep.
And they fly and tackle everybody. And it makes it really hard for a team to dink and dunk 65, 70, 80 yards downfield on us. Now, if they got to do that for 25, 30, 35 yards, their chance of scoring go way up. So you simply can't do it. You can't give a good team a short field. And I don't know if UAB is a good team, but they've got good players in certain positions. And when they've only got 25, 30 yards, it takes one play. The next thing you know, they score 14 points on you that they shouldn't have gotten. So, things like that get addressed. Kirby, I guarantee you, he has ticked about 14 points against his first team defense being given up to UAB, but mistakes lead to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want to shout out Rhett Womack in the chat here. He's commenting some stuff. Feel free to leave comments in the chat, and me and Russ will get to them. If you have any questions or anything like that, just feel free to throw them up there, and we'll throw them up on the screen.
That's it.
We got us up live.
Short fields make defenses look worse. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
When the other team has 65 yards of offense and 14 points, something has not gone right for you. So you cannot fumble the ball. I mean, everybody's watched, Remember the Titans when Sunshine kept fumbling and Coach Boone, you disconnect, Bobby?
Yeah. Something happened.
Go
ahead. Keep talking.
You think we're still rolling?
Yeah, we should be fine.
He's probably confused right now. When you've got that short of a field, and they've got 65, 70 yards of offense and 14 points. Tank good. Technical difficulties. So those of y'all listen, this is only our third time doing the show, and we are still learning. On our second time on location at Wire Park, by the way, Watkinsville, Georgia. Appreciate the guys out there. So, our feed is messed up on us. Bobby is trying very hard. This is what they call dead air, and the people that are watching us are not happy about it. Kind of like when you come out flat in a game. It happens to UAB. You feel good about what you got going. You got a plan in place, but then you can't control everything.
They can still hear you.
They can still hear us. They just can't see us.
They just can't see us.
Well, I have no idea about that then.
Feel free to keep talking, Russ, and we'll
and then don't start quick. Hey, we're back. Good job, Robert. Don't touch the computer again.
I'm gonna leave it right here.
We'll just look at it from there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the stats say. We need our buddy Brent Rollins on here telling us what Georgia's done early on in games. But just as a casual fan, we talked about it last week some. It feels like we started a little bit slow. Now, Carson Beck, you heard Kirby talk about this a little bit this week. He missed a couple of passes early.
Right.
The dude's actually completing like 70-something% of his passes, which is elite.
Yeah.
But he missed 2 or 3 in the game early the other day. That it would have been a blowout. It would have been 28-0 in the first quarter. It's a total different conversation. But they haven't been dialed in yet. They haven't hit on all cylinders yet, and they made mistakes early. And next thing you know, you're sweating against UAB. Well, guess what, big dog? Auburn ain't UAB. They both got UAB in their name. You could kind of mix them up and play word scramble and get the same thing, but they are very different teams. Playing in Auburn, it's one of the 2 or 3 toughest places in the SEC that we ever played. Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, those places right there. Tennessee, when they're good, when Tennessee's bad, they're very quiet, which they've been bad a lot lately, fortunately for us. But when those places are good, they're really hard to play. Auburn is a rocking stadium if you allow them to feel good about themselves.
Yeah, and as we mentioned, we gave up 3 touchdowns. We gave up 336 total yards of offense to UAB, and that's without the turnovers.
Yeah.
So, we already hashed out the defense, but we did already mention the fumbles too. We already talked about that. But obviously, I think overall we looked much better than we did against South Carolina. And
at the end of South Carolina, we looked great. Second half of South Carolina,
right.
They were on point. The first half against UAB, you actually felt like the team had juice. A lot of times this felt flat. This felt like a little bit of a dead, I don't know. Every fan's felt it where it's a little bit heavy. It's like, let's bust through. It's like you almost hit the banner and the Velcro gets stuck. You can't come through and it makes no sense.
Right.
You should bust through, but we haven't been. We felt like with UAB, the energy was there. We just missed a couple of gimmies early on. And next thing you know, it's kind of right back to the same old, what are we doing?
I hear you. You mentioned Carson Beck a little bit.
Yeah.
In this game, he was 22 for 32, 338 yards, and 3 touchdowns, including 1 rushing touchdown.
Yep.
There is a lot of people have been calling for Carson Beck and trying to place blame on him, I think, a little too much. But I think that Carson Beck here in this game showed that he can throw the ball downfield. He can move the football. What did you see from Carson Beck that you liked, or maybe you could see him improve on? Does he still not look as comfortable as he should be in the starting role?
Yeah, he looks very controlled to me, which is good. The thing we loved about Stetson Bennett played a little bit in that kind of, the most famous is kind of like the John Elway, Brett Favre, mentality where wide open gunslinger, make something happen.
Right.
If things break down, it's okay because there's magic back here.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he
was so great at that too.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He had a knack that is not natural.
Yeah.
Carson is not that person. By the way, not many people are Stetson Bennett as far as what they can do in the pocket there. So Carson's not that guy. He's a very controlled quarterback. Has a lot of poise. Kirby talks about all the time. He's not an easily rattled guy. He's all the things that you want your quarterback to be. And so far, it seems to me that he's not throwing balls that would be, every ball he throws is a safe ball right now.
Yeah.
And that's probably by design. He's not throwing a lot of 50-50 balls. He's not putting a bunch of balls in the middle of traffic where the defense has a chance to tip it and get a pick or something like that.
Yeah.
Everything he's doing right now is very controlled. And I mentioned Brent Rollins already. If you don't know Brent Rollins, by the way, who's a contributor to UJ Sports, follow him on Twitter. A lot of great stat stuff that tells you some of the deep dive things.
Yeah, he breaks a lot of stuff down, and he does very in-depth, basically play-by-play of the game.
Yeah.
Breaks down everything. It's great. Go check it out for sure.
And he had a tweet I saw this week about the amount of plays that the quarterback has that had turnover potential. Basically a ball that had a chance to be picked. And I'm probably butchering it, but basically it said that Carson Beck is up there with like 2 or 3 guys in the country as the safest quarterback there is. And when the defense we have is as good as we are, and the receivers, the running backs, as they get healthier, are as good as Georgia has, you don't want Carson Beck to lose games for you.
Right.
Now, the concern is at some point, homeboy's got to win a game. He's got to do something out of the mold. He's got to break out of the chains of the offense as far as just, we've got this path right here we're trying to stay on. At some point, you got to hit him one of those and get around the corner and make something. We don't know if that's in his wheelhouse or not yet. So, but he's very controlled, very poised, very accurate. And his stats, as you just mentioned, he's completing 70-some% of his balls. He's top 2 or 3 in the SEC in yards. I mean, he's been an elite quarterback. If you just look at the stats, it's just a matter of we haven't seen the it factor from him yet. And again, he hasn't been put in position to do that as of yet. So it may happen this weekend, though.
For sure. I also am so obviously we had some transfers come in. We had Dominic Lovett come in. We had Ra come in. we have some receivers, but in previous years, we had and Arian Smith, he's been playing a little bit more this season, but we had a couple of transfers, as we saw, Jermaine Burton was several years ago, but A.D. Mitchell.
Yep.
How do you think that that's had an effect on Carson Beck's ability? Obviously, we still have talent at Georgia,
sure,
but maybe, it's A.D. Mitchell is phenomenal talent. You saw what he did in that Texas game against Alabama.
And let's parlay this into our buddy George Wilson up there has got a question here. So let's parlay this question, your question, into that right there as well. The answer is absolutely. As much as you go full speed in practice and do all the things against really good competition, and Georgia under Kirby does a better. If you've never been to a practice, which I know, that's most of us, right?
Yeah.
But if you've never been to a practice, it's unbelievable. The tempo, the competition, how fast they go. I mean, you as a fan on the sidelines of practice, you are nervous watching what they do because you feel like you're about to miss something. It doesn't prepare you for the games when you don't know what's coming. It doesn't prepare you for the crowd noise when the lights are on, the TV cameras out there, there's real referees playing. It's just something different about it. And there's no amount of practice that can simulate what a game feels like. So you've got some adjustment period there with Rah-Rah, Dominic, Ladd is out.
Yeah.
So two of your top receivers are brand new. Your top receiver's been hurt. Marcus Rosemy-Jackson was out some early.
He was.
Jackson Meeks has been hurt.
Yeah.
Teams have been double teaming Brock Bowers the entire game to make sure he doesn't have a chance to go. So, yeah, it definitely makes a difference. Your timing down the field on those 15-yard out routes, those deep posts, the fades, the time between the quarterback and the receiver are huge. The question there is expected more explosive plays against weaker competition. I do think, by the way, and I love stats. I watched it. I was looking at stuff today. Georgia's had 23 what they call explosive plays. And that's a play of either over 20 or 25 yards. I don't remember. All the analytics stuff kind of messes me up. But it's a play over like 20 to 25 yards. Georgia's had like 23 of those already through the first 4 games. So about 5 or 6 times a game, we're busting a 20-plus yard play. And again, you jump back to the UAB game. Arian Smith was wide open. Jackson Meeks was there. And even Brock Bowers had one down the seam early to where Carson threw a check down to an open guy. But you had a shot there as well. So some of the explosive play stuff gets into the situation where a lot of times explosive plays come from you taking chances. You got to push the ball downfield. That means your line's got to hold up a little bit longer. Your receivers have to do a double move and get past somebody. You got to beat somebody off the line of scrimmage. It takes more time to do that, and there's more risk involved in that. When you're steamrolling people, why take a risk?
Right.
I mean,
you're not playing from behind.
Yeah, so some of that question is it.
Lead.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned Brock Bowers. Obviously, he was heavily involved in this game, which I feel like is much more refreshing for a lot of the fans and a lot of the people who have been calling for Brock Bowers to get more involved and, saying, Bobo, he needs to get, Brock more involved. Well, he did 9 receptions, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Both of Carson Beck's, 2 of his. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns in that game. 2
pass and 1 run.
Okay. So both of his passing touchdowns were to Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
So now we have seen Brock in that role where he kind of takes over. And I think obviously the score shows that we're fully capable of doing something like that. How do you think that we will see this consistent Brock Bowers, this consistent 9 receptions per game? Is this something that we will see more of, or do you think this is like a one-off versus UAB and he'll go back to his more minuscule role?
He's definitely not going back.
He can't
go back. He's the best player in college football. And if anybody disagrees with that, you can come on the show and fight us. It would actually be great TV to come on and fight. You go round 1, I go round 2, just see how it goes. Defense a lot of times dictate how your stars are going to be involved in the game. And early on, I guarantee if you go and watch film first few games of the year, the defensive scheme take Brock away. Stuff that they've seen us do from a tendency standpoint. They like to throw this route to him. They get in this formation. They like to get Brock the ball like this. His passes this past week, he caught 9 for $121, like you just mentioned. At least half of those were within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I swear they were. And a lot of that was moving him. He'd line up on the left side. He'd come in motion. He'd slip screen out the back off of what they call the RPO stuff. So you're faking to the running back, then dumping it to Brock. And while the game seemed a little slow, a little sluggish at times, what got everybody crunk? When number 19 caught the ball and those guys went to hit him. One, he just grabbed a guy. It was like the old Southern Baptist preacher, just baptized the dude right out of bounds with one hand. then kept rolling, ran over somebody, spun move off of 3 people, went and played the tube up there in the student section for just a second, turned a backflip, rubbed Uga, and then went to the end zone. And you're like, holy crap, did we just see that? Because he is – it's funny. This has been the week where everybody's been getting on Dion in Colorado and all that. So we ain't doing that. But they talk about Travis Hunter, talking about he is him. I don't exactly know what that means, but I feel like Brock Bowers is him.
Yeah.
That dude is like – it's adrenaline straight to the veins when he gets the ball. The team feels it. The crowd feels it. Everybody feels it. And you don't think Mike Bobo feels it? You're a lot better offensive coordinator when Brock Bowers has the ball in his hands.
Yeah. Agreed.
I actually wish if Kirby let me be the OC for a week. Kirby's
That'd
watching.
be a sight to see.
Kirby texted. He's watching.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. I'm just kidding. He's not watching this at all. Every time we got within the five yards of it, I would just give Brock the ball. I would give him the ball on toss sweep. I'd give the ball on jet sweep. I'd throw a fade to him. I would let him score 87 touchdowns this year.
Why not?
Let him be the number 1 player in the history. He's already going to go down as arguably the greatest tight end in the history of college football.
Sure.
He's got a chance for that, depending on how the season goes. And he is that dude with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and he is, like you mentioned, arguably the best tight end in college football history. Let's talk about one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Brock Bowers got asked this week. Did you see that question about getting asked about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce dating?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I saw you're not as old as I am. So you don't get involved in all the dumb Facebook memes and the things that all the moms and has-been dads post. But I saw a guy, what's the thing where they always get marked safe from a hurricane? You know what I'm talking about? You ever see it on it? Like they're marked safe from Hurricane Ida. And it's made for like all the people in Florida when a hurricane comes, let their neighbors and their family know they're okay.
Yeah.
I saw a thing on Facebook this week that said, they put the flag up, said, marked safe from caring about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. And that's how I feel. Like, I don't give 2 rips about it. I don't think Brock did either. I actually thought his personality showed a little bit. He's like, man, it's a win for tight end. It's good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a Swiftie.
Yeah. Neither am I, but obviously it's been sweeping the nation. His jersey sales went up like 400% or something like that. Insane.
So who would be a better guest to have on our podcast? Travis Kelce or Taylor Swift?
Do you think that people would want to see?
I don't know.
I think we would get more viewers if it was Taylor Swift, because all we would have to do is put Taylor Swift in the description, and everyone who searched Taylor Swift would see that we're live with her. But Travis Kelce, for sure, would be significantly cooler, considering they have their own podcast. Have you seen his podcast with his brother Jason?
A little bit.
Okay.
The only, and again, more Facebook things that us old people, middle-aged people get to watch. The only Swift Kelce combo I care about play for the Eagles.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just, hey, got some Eagles fans with us. And I love Jason Kelce. Yeah. I love that dude playing center. He is a game wrecker. And then Swift with the Eagles, man, we didn't know we were going to parlay right in that conversation. But that's a Swift Kelce combination that I love. And it is beautiful what they do.
It is. DeAndre's been playing out of his mind recently. But kind of back to this weekend's game. Did you see Trent Dilfer's comment before we got into? I think it was going into the game. He made a comment about how the SEC atmosphere is better than the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Is that something that you would agree with? You've never played in a Super Bowl, correct?
Yes, Bobby, that is correct. Thank you.
Because I remember last show you said,
just so you know, if I had played in the Super Bowl, I would have told you by now.
That's fair, because you said what you've snapped a Peyton Manning one time in what was it, practice or preseason?
I don't think I ever got to snap to Peyton in the actual game.
Okay.
I went to snap to Peyton one time, and Jeff Saturday was the center with the Colts starter, and I was I'm like 8th string backup, undrafted free agent. And he's like, hey, Rook, you're in. I was like, okay. And he said, oh, yeah, by the way, if you mess up the snap and break Peyton's finger, you're going to get bleeping cut. Good luck. You talk about nervous.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever broken somebody's finger snapping before?
No, I've never heard of that happening.
Neither have I. That's why I was
absolutely ridiculous.
I figured it was a center thing.
But I thought it was possible. Yeah. Like, do you want to be the guy that breaks Peyton Manning's finger when you're playing with him?
No,
of course not. I was very nervous.
Yeah, that's funny. That's good stuff right there.
First time, I better not tell that one on air.
I was gonna say,
move on.
I could show the video, but I'm sure all the Georgia fans have already seen that video of Trent Dilfer. But
yeah, so that was your question, right? So I've never been to the Super Bowl, as you so adeptly pointed out, as a player or as a fan. Haven't even gotten close to the situation,
Yeah.
matter of fact.
Closer than me.
But I feel like the Super Bowl is just a big production.
Okay.
Right? The vast
corporate events.
The vast majority of the tickets are corporate events. Like you and I can't just go get tickets.
Yeah.
If we want them, we probably can't buy tickets. You got to know somebody. You got to donate a lot of money. Got to be part of the advertising package, et cetera. So people are coming to that for the spectacle. It's no different than people going to Mardi Gras or coming to the Johnson County 4th of July parade, which is a big deal, by the way.
Or some music festival.
Right.
Like, those out west. I don't even know, like Red Rocks or whatever those.
I've already said the 4th of July parade in Wrightsville. I think everybody understands how big we're talking here.
Yeah.
But
big time.
There are situations where people are just coming to just to see what's there.
Yeah.
When you come into an SEC stadium, the intensity from the crowd. I'll give you a story. We played LSU 2003, and people ask. I think it's something we should talk about, by the way, considering it's Auburn week, is about the biggest rivals Georgia plays, hardest away games, etc.
Okay.
People ask me sometimes, hey, what's your favorite road game you ever played? It's a great question, and I love to talk about those things. My favorite one was LSU. We played there in 2003, and this is to illustrate what an SEC stadium is like. Our bus starts coming in the backside of the stadium, and their fans, we got 5 or 6 buses, whatever, their fans block our buses, and all of a sudden, they're rocking it and throwing stuff at us, and every single LSU fan, it doesn't matter if you're a 98-year-old grandpa who can't put your teeth in and rolling up in a wheelchair, or if you're a 3-year-old who your daddy's wiping your snotty nose and then giving you a Rice Krispie treat to shut your little yappy mouth up, every single one of them. I don't think you can give the finger on live. My kids watch, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Every one of them give you the finger.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. And it is amazing. And then we go out on the field 3 hours before the game. We get to walk the field. The entire student section is slap full from row 1 to row 814, whatever the top row is.
Yeah.
And they're chanting some very, very bad words with Georgia on the end of it.
Yeah.
And then you go to leave, and then they got that big freaking tiger right there. The tiger is like between me and you, where we got to go in the locker room. So they're playing mind games. Then when you go out there on the field, it is literally rocking. Yep. Because those people come passionate about the team that they're supporting. They live it. They breathe it. It's one of the most important things in their lives. Marriage, children, church, and SEC football.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it ranks for a lot of people in the South. So they care. The people in Auburn care. It doesn't matter that they're confused about what their mascot is. It doesn't matter that their library is full of coloring books. None of that stuff matters. On Saturdays,
Peyton Thorne's their starting quarterback.
That actually does matter. We can talk about that in a second, too. The passion the SEC fans have is unrivaled. And the energy that comes from that is electric, dude. People will also ask me sometimes when I talk to people about my experience, like, what do you miss? You miss your guys. You miss your teammates. You miss the locker room. And then, man, you miss that shot in the veins on Saturday. It is unbelievable what it does for you in that situation. Yeah, Trent Dilfer is exactly right. An SEC stadium is exponentially harder to play in than the Super Bowl.
You heard it here. Well, not first, but second, because Trent Dilfer was first.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I've never been to a Super Bowl. I've obviously been to a Georgia game, so I can't compare them, I guess. But you've been closer than me. So last week we kind of made some predictions. We had your 2 very good friends, Tyson and Jarius on
Tyson
here.
Brown and Jarius win.
That's right. Talk about, in LSU in 03,
right.
His kick return. But yeah, well, first of all, Georgia dropped in the FPI rankings, by the way, if you saw that. If you didn't see that, here, I'll throw it up for the fans to see.
I'm nervous since we lost our feed earlier. I'm already nervous about what's about to happen on my computer, Bobby.
Let's see. No,
and by the way, for those who don't know, FPI is ESPN's rankings that shows the probability of whatever specific team making the college football playoff and ultimately winning it. So that's kind of how they're ranking that Football Power Index. And last week, Georgia was, I think, 3, if I remember correctly, behind I don't even remember who was above us last week. Ohio State and maybe even Texas.
Texas wasn't quite up there, but it was What is going on here? It's not letting me share my screen.
We're not
All right.
gonna worry about
Anyways,
that.
yeah,
We're not
we
gonna worry
won't.
about
We
that.
won't worry
But
about
we
it.
dropped again.
Here, I'll read them off to you guys.
All right, go for it.
Ohio State's 1.
Yep.
Oklahoma is 2. I'm pretty sure Oklahoma was 1. And we'll talk about Ohio State here in a second. Alabama is 3. Penn State is 4. Georgia is 5. Texas 6. Oregon, USC, Washington, Florida State. So I'm just confused as to how the rankings work. I don't understand them. Because when we shed some light on the situation, if you have any light to shed.
So my mother-in-law, and if she's listening, she's gonna be very nervous about this. My mother-in-law is a saint of a lady. I've never heard her come close to cussing except for one time. And she told her son that he was acting in an asinine manner. The FPI rankings are put out in an asinine manner. It makes zero sense. I feel like Oklahoma is a bad football team.
They're not even in the top 10.
No, they struggle. They play a weak schedule. That's why they're high in the FPI. For Bama to be in front of us is ridiculous. They've already gotten beat one time. Ohio State.
That's my thing. How is Ohio State up there with the only team that they beat is Notre Dame, and they have a tough season. They got to play a top-ranked Michigan and a top-ranked Penn State still. Yeah. So I just don't get how Ohio State is up there.
It's ridiculous. We're not worried about that. It's back to the whole Dan Lanning conversation last week, the bump back on Oregon and Colorado. ESPN is, they're putting FPI out for clicks. Kirby ain't worried about clicks.
Yeah.
It's the heavyweight battle when these teams show up to play.
Right.
And right now, Georgia is pretty good at throwing haymakers.
Yeah. You actually were one of the few to say Clemson was going to give Florida State a game.
Yeah.
Because it was in Death Valley. And
should have beat them.
And you were right. Granted, Florida State did cover the spread. So I was also right.
Technically speaking.
However, you're right. Clemson should have won that game.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to do it with that not as time was expiring, but late in the fourth quarter field goal, basically to end the game, and they missed it.
Yeah, should have beat them. Could have, should have, would have. And here's your PSA: don't gamble because the spread will kill you. No matter what should have happened, it's got a way of losing.
Yeah.
I've never met a dude who became rich gambling off of sports. Because dumb things like that happen. But yeah, Florida State was in a battle. And look, give FSU credit. FSU is playing lights out right now. Jordan Travis, isn't that their quarterback's name?
Yeah.
Is a baller.
For sure.
And they've got some receivers that are problems for anybody they face. Keon Coleman, and then the other kid who's like 6'9", 250 pounds, 6'7", I think. They are problems out there. So give them credit with it. But yeah, Clemson gave them a run, man. Clemson has a lot of talented players, and in their stadium, Florida State found themselves in a dogfight. Does that sound familiar? Right? We're going to play a team this week with really talented players in their stadium. We could be in for a dogfight. I don't think we are, but we could be.
So we talked about Ohio State a little bit, and obviously, we mentioned Florida State, but Ohio State beat Notre Dame 17-14. Notre Dame, talk about a team who should have won that game. Notre Dame should have won that game. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the ending of that game, but
they were missing Rudy.
Oh, they really were.
That my gosh, that 10-leaf clover defense they had ran out.
How they were just playing prevent defense basically the entirety of that last drive and just let Kyle McCord work them down the field.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I was so. I am not a Notre Dame fan by any means necessary, but I was so frustrated watching that game and just watching them give up. And it wasn't even to Marvin Harrison. They threw a couple balls to Marvin Harrison, but they were just dog walking them down the field. Like, it was unbelievable.
All right. To our fans listening, comment. Here's my, I don't know if people comment. We ask questions or not. We'll try it. It's still new to us. As Georgia fans now, we are all in the Deep South. The Deep South's oldest rivalry is coming up this week. We live and breathe college football. We just talked about the SEC with how important night games are there, how big of an atmosphere it is. Part of that is we hate other places in the country that also play football. And for a long time, I feel like it was Notre Dame. Who do we dislike? Who do we less want to win a national championship now if it can't be us? We want Georgia to win. And I'm jumping all over the place. With like rivals, sometimes with Georgia, talk about who do you hate the most, who do you want to beat the most, who do you want to lose to the least. That's how Georgia fans determine who their rivals are.
Yeah.
So right now, who would you hate to see win the national championship more? Ohio State or Notre Dame?
Jeez. I would say Ohio State.
Yeah.
Personally.
Ryan Day has become the biggest unlikable dude in college football.
What was that debacle he had
with Lou Holtz?
Lou Holtz.
Yeah. Lou Holtz called up people of Ohio soft. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. So, anyways, I think Ohio State has become public enemy number one for everybody in college football, which is funny because we're on such a win streak. Everybody hates the dog on top, which has been Georgia, obviously, for a long time now. But Ohio State is just so unlikable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marshall agrees.
Marshall
Ohio State.
Ohio State. We got Jackson saying Tennessee or Ohio State.
Tennessee.
Andy Stowe, friend of the show. Ohio State. Nothing but crybabies from the top down. Let them know.
Tennessee,
Ohio
right?
State. Ohio State. Ohio State hands down. Shelby, Ohio State. So everybody's saying Ohio State.
All right.
And I can't blame them. I don't think Notre Dame has ever really. They always find their way in the top four somehow because they don't play a conference championship, and then they end up in the top four, and then they get demolished like TCU or some other Pac-12 or Big 12 schools do when they find their way in the top four. So Notre Dame doesn't scare me, in my personal opinion.
I don't know what's happening being live on location, but somebody must just got marriage proposed to them because they're going nuts right down the street from us here at Wire Park. All right, they close it down. Notre Dame doesn't scare me. Ohio State's way more talented, so yeah, they're the one you least want to play. Last year when we beat Ohio State, the time I knew we had them, by the way, when they allowed them to kick the field goal, I wasn't sure. Icing the kicker normally doesn't work, but if you can go back and watch the game, it's hilarious to me. Kirby calls timeout, ice the kicker. They cut the camera over to Noah Ruggles. Wasn't that his name? I think that's his name. Run with it. His name was Noah something. I think it was Ruggles. When the camera,
I think maybe right. Yeah.
When the camera pans to him, he unbuckled his chin strap and had to take a deep breath. But it just peed down his leg. That was kicking leg. It
I
ain't
didn't
good.
see that. I missed
Watch.
that.
I'm telling you.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So Ohio State, that's the ones that we don't want to win the most, right? It is what it is. Yeah, they become unlikable there. I think it's funny too when you didn't think about Georgia fans with this. Like, here you go. They responded well to that last one right there. Let's ask them another question. All right, Georgia fans, who is your biggest rival? Georgia fans, put it in there. Who's your biggest rival? Now, the way that I talk about this, Bobby, I think it works like this. I think it goes to who do you dislike the most? I think it goes to who do you want to beat the most? And then who do you want to lose to the least? All right. So that's how I kind of qualify it. And my personal rundown is this. I want to beat Florida the most. I want to lose to Tech the least. And I dislike Tennessee the most.
Yeah.
And that goes back to some personal stuff that happened during recruiting and all that with Tennessee for me. But a lot of Georgia fans are going to say Auburn. A lot of Georgia fans are going to say Clemson, depending on personal experience you've had there. Florida and Tech are always up there.
Yep.
But Auburn is in the top 2 or 3 for Georgia fans to always want to beat, and you don't want to lose to them jokers.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments here for Florida or Alabama. Georgia Tech was up there. Bama. Yeah, so a lot of people agree with you. I think it would be the death of a lot of Georgia fans to see Florida whenever that does happen. And I'm not saying that can't happen this season because, I'm not trying to jinx anything here. But when Florida does beat us, I think that'll be the death of a lot of Georgia fans after this insane run that we've been on. But talking about like looking ahead to that game and a lot of other games, like you mentioned, some of these games that we have are turning into some interesting games and night games. Kentucky just got announced.
Yeah, 7:00
night game. What do you see down the Georgia schedule that looks like it'll be a battle? What do you, or if there is any of those games, or what games should we really look out for this season as Georgia fans?
You're going to have to pull the schedule up for me. Okay. I know we got to see it on here. So the meat of the schedule, and I don't get, by the way, why people say that our schedule is weak. People who say that our schedule is weak is just they are having to, I don't know, share oxygen with somebody else because not enough is getting to their brain. I mean, come play the schedule that we play because we got Auburn this week. I don't care who you are. If you go play Auburn in Auburn, you better buckle your daggum chin strap up and get ready to play because you're about to be in a battle.
Yeah.
So Auburn is a battle. I don't care what it is. Peyton Thorne, here's a stat to make Georgia fans feel better. We were texting about this earlier.
Yeah.
Auburn has not had 100 yards passing in its last 5 games against Power 5 schools. That's wild. By the way, I do think they'll have 100 yards passing it because statistically, I can't even say that word right. Statistically, it is hard to not pass for 100 yards in modern football.
Yeah.
And they haven't done it in the last 5 Power 5 schools. So that sets up really well for us, by the way.
And unless Auburn is up and is going to be just trying to run the clock and run the ball.
Yeah.
If they're playing from behind, like I feel like a lot of people are expecting, they're going to have to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So naturally,
they're going to get some yards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So back to the schedule conversation. Going to Auburn it's really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we had some great battles there, man. 2002. I'm just thinking through my personal time. 2002, we played there. We're down late. David Greens hits Michael Johnson. It's 3rd and 16. Late in the 4th quarter, we come back and win that game. You know, then you go through the years. We had Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown. I mean, they had some absolute dudes. And then I saw a poll online this week about which player from opposing teams did you dislike the most. And it's Nick Fairley for what he did to Aaron Murray a few years ago with a late hit in the back. So, you know, Auburn, the tensions are high. The motor is revved hot, and it's a hard place to play.
Yeah.
So Auburn's a tough game. What's next?
We've got, pretty sure the week after is the Kentucky game, but let me pull it up here.
You got it.
Kentucky, Vanderbilt.
So Kentucky's tough. Mark Stoops is a really good football coach.
Yeah.
They're a solid football team.
They could be in the top 25 after this week. They're right outside the top 25.
And they're probably going to, I don't know who they play this week, but I don't think they're in one of the monster games.
Right.
So they should be. And they're a good football team that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. You feel like Georgia should win. In our minds, we still beat Kentucky, but Kentucky's better than they were.
Yeah.
You know, Vandy is Vandy. You know, we should roll Vandy.
They're looking better this year.
No, they're not. They're terrible. I don't even know if they're terrible.
I feel bad for picking on Vandy.
I'm assuming they're terrible.
Yeah.
They play in a construction site.
They do. They do. I saw that tweet it was like 10 days away from Vanderbilt's opening kick, and the entire field and everything outside of it was just demolished. And they were,
So Auburn, Kentucky back-to-back is a tough 2-week stretch.
Yep.
Then Vandy. All right.
Then we got Florida, so that'll be at neutral site in Jacksonville.
Yep. And then down the stretch as it goes, Florida, Ole Miss,
Missouri,
Tennessee Tech.
Yep.
That's a tough stretch, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's just hard to win that many games in a row.
Yeah.
You feel like if you can get through these next 3 weeks, Auburn, Kentucky, Vandy, you get your break. You get your bye week from Florida.
Right.
And you feel pretty good right now about going into that as a, what that make a 7-0, 6-0, whatever it is, undefeated there. But that stretch, when you come out of that Halloween break of Florida, Tennessee, Missouri, Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, even with Brent Key, they're a better football team this year.
They are.
Like, that's just a hard stretch. So the concern for Georgia fans is having to consistently be up against the grind that is SEC football with an already banged up group, by the way. You hope you get healthy as you go. Because, man, it is hard. It's hard to win a national championship. It's hard to win 2 in a row because the ball has to bounce your way and you got to stay really healthy. Yeah. Georgia's been very fortunate in that. Is it going to happen this year? I have no idea. Georgia has a great shot at it, but it's a rough road to get. It's a tough road to hoe.
Yeah.
That's a farming analogy
that I don't understand. But, hey.
You ain't never rode a hoe?
Whatever floats your goat. Nope, never.
Or hoe to row? We better get off of that topic.
Oh, man. Anyways, any other games this past weekend or this upcoming weekend you want to talk about?
I don't know the big ones this weekend. What are the big ones this weekend?
Let's see.
I do love talking about them.
Let's see what we got here. I think Kentucky, Tanner Shane said Kentucky and Florida is this weekend. So that one is certainly.
And that's a big game for both those teams, right?
It is.
They both those teams feel like if their season has a chance to be salvaged, you can't lose what both teams probably consider to be winnable games.
Yeah.
Florida's feeling pretty good right now. That's what they did to Tennessee in the Swamp. They're feeling pretty good about their schedule with how it sets up to get to where we're at, meaning Kentucky's next. That's a winnable game for them before they hit their schedule as well.
Right.
And like you said, Kentucky's knocking on the knocking on the door of the top 25. They beat Florida, they're there.
Oh, for
so,
sure.
you know, we're going to see. After that, who knows?
Utah and Oregon, Friday night game. That one, or Utah and Oregon State. That game is interesting solely because it's a Friday night game. It's going to be the only game that's on TV that night. But
which I hate, by the way. Friday nights and Friday night lights in high school football, I absolutely despise what TV is doing to our sports. Everything's dictated by the almighty advertising dollar.
Yeah.
And it's sacrilegious to play college football games on Friday night.
That's
Fix
fair.
that too, NCAA. Y'all got everything else messed up. So you got that one. Ole Miss LSU is good. And that's in Ole Miss. LSU is back to being a pick again for a lot of people saying they're going to win. They kind of had a little stumble early. They got questioned, but Jaden Daniels looked really good the last few weeks for them.
Yep.
Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin, they're always dangerous. You never feel like they're going to be the top tier team that wins. They just haven't proven they're going to do that yet. They lose 2 or 3 games a year. So that's a huge game, Ole Miss and LSU for the West side over there. And especially when you think about who's going to come out of the West as a champ this year. Bam and LSU both feel good about it, so you're not sure there. And then, you know, how about the first time game day ever going to see Notre Dame and Duke? I feel like I'm a Duke fan by proxy, by the way, because growing up in Wrightsville, we only got 4 channels.
Yeah.
Channel 13, Channel 24, Channel 41, Channel 58. That's all we got.
Yeah.
So your choices for what you got to watch on Saturdays were very limited. And it was always the Jefferson Pilot game of the week, and they were always at Duke, I feel like. So, yeah, I'm pulling for Duke. Mike Elko is the coach up there. He's done a really good job. I hope they beat the crap out of Notre Dame.
Hey, we saw Duke beat Clemson earlier in the season. They in Death Valley, it was at Clemson.
Yeah.
So hey, Duke's playing good football this year.
I like it. I'm for it.
Yeah, for sure. How close, Wrightsville? How close is that to where in location? Is it North, South Georgia? Where are we in Wrightsville?
Do you have any guess at all?
I'm gonna say Northwest.
Ooh, you're way off.
Is it Southeast?
It's closer to Southeast. We're dead middle. We're middle of the state, man.
Okay.
If you go to Macon and turn left and drive an hour, you're gonna find us. It's about halfway between Macon and Savannah.
Okay.
It's the home of Herschel Walker, Bobby. You got some work to do to figure that stuff out.
Oh my gosh,
too.
I drove through there on the way back from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know where that is.
So it's a great town.
Yeah.
It really is. I had something I was gonna say around that, but it got me messed up now. What were we talking about? What was the question before that?
We were talking about. You mentioned it was Duke.
Yeah.
I think I asked you.
We only have 4 channels. Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
So. Yeah, now my Alzheimer's.
His train of thought stopped.
Yeah, but I mean, here we are, right? You're back to the Auburn game this week now for Georgia, and as you springboard into what hopefully is going to be another run for Georgia, you can't lose to Auburn. The schedule's too hard to have a loss to Auburn early,
right?
And the good thing for Georgia is Auburn has struggled in the passing game, so you feel like Kirby has done it. The mark of Kirby's defense has been he takes away what another team wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Auburn wants to run the ball. So I think the secret sauce for Georgia is how do you stuff their running game, but not put yourself in position to give up those explosive plays to their offense.
Yeah.
Because if you want to get down in a hurry, let them throw it to one of their track guys outside because they've got some really fast dudes. Let them throw some of that. So I expect the same thing for Georgia. I expect a conservative start to the game on defense. Let them throw the ball in front of you, have a few completions, come up and tackle, and make them drive the field. And then hopefully, if Coach Bobo is listening, it's going to be, hey, let's see how many times we can get Brock Bowers the ball early on. So hopefully it's going to be the game where you see Georgia's offense come out and explode. You see the run game take over. Like Georgia is a much better statistical football team than Auburn is. Auburn is not good in the passing game. Their quarterback situation has been iffy at best. Peyton Thorne hasn't done it yet. Robbie Ashford is an elite athlete, but he has not been the guy line up in the pocket that's beat anybody. They're averaging, I think, I've actually got the stat, again, back to my stats here. When you come to their yards per game on it, gotcha. Georgia's averaging is crazy. Fans would not believe this. How many yards a game do you think Georgia's averaging on offense?
400.
496.
Whoa.
So we're averaging 500 yards, just call it 500 yards. 500 yards a game of total offense, scoring 41 points a game.
Wow.
Auburn's averaging 298 a game. 16 points on offense. Georgia's had 23 plays with 20-plus yards. Auburn's had 13. So Georgia's offense has been, honestly, kind of elite.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it because we all want to fire Bobo because we're idiots watching the game.
Yeah.
and you want to see this offense really explode. You want to see those receivers come back and be healthy.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll see Ladd back this week. He's had some back just finding the rhythm. Ra and Dominic Love are starting to find the rhythm. Dejon Edwards is the man in the backfield for Georgia. And Dylan Bell's giving the juice that we've been missing back there a little bit. So you feel like you're in position right now to really show that you've got the pedigree, that your reality matches your pedigree. Because Georgia's pedigree right now is the best.
Yep.
Back-to-back national champions, won however many games in a row, top of the world, unless you're talking to the ESPI. That's not dumb. That's not it. ESPN's dumb FPI rankings, which have us 5th or 6th. Everywhere else has Georgia number 1, without question. But we don't feel like we've played like that just yet.
Right.
So either this is going to be a dogfight where Auburn does a few things early. Hugh Freeze got tricks up his sleeve, which he will. He's got some good scheme. He's always a good scheme coach. He has things that are hard to stop and can attack you where you're weakest. This is what he tries to do. So either Georgia makes mistakes and allows them the opportunity to stay in the game. It's a dogfight, or it finally unleashes and clicks. And Carson Beck, by the way, last week, if we hadn't had the 2 turnovers and the 2 overthrows, you would have felt that way. It would have been an absolute bludgeoning of UAB. I know I was going to say a while ago, by the way, that I forgot.
Okay, go ahead.
We talked about, this is off of that, but we got talking about quarterbacks. But we should tell everybody, by the way, we got our guest next week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys in my life that have I have very, how shall I say this, intimate relationship with. And it comes from the amount of times we've been under center.
Yep.
And our quarterback, QB1 for most of my time, my first 4 years there, David Green, is going to be on with us next week. So we'll have D Green on us with us next week.
Absolutely.
And on the Dawgs and Hawgs podcast. So that's what I was talking about. Man, I wish we could have had him on this week to talk about the Auburn game, because that was really the place where his legend was stamped. That Auburn game 02, where he came down there and went down the field and won the game, hit Michael Johnson back of the end zone. Like, that's when people are like, all right, he ain't. People think about the Hobnail boot game as his coming out party. It was a great game, but his time becoming the leader for Georgia was 2002 on the Plains in Jordan-Hare Stadium. That's when he became the leader for our football team.
Cool. Well,
David Green next week.
Yeah, I'm sure they're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. He's done some barbecue reviews with you as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of barbecue reviews, where were you this last week? We got to talk about barbecue a little bit with you here. So,
well, it was so fun, man. As we do these reviews on my personal stuff, it's fun just having old teammates stuff do it with me. And an old offensive lineman, my man George Foster from Macon, Georgia, Big Fizzle, was the absolute man. He lives down around College Park. Went to a place called Hattie Marie's. Down, you can see the airport, the plane's taking off of Hartsfield down there.
Wow. And
I went to Hattie Marie's. It was Texas style barbecue and Cajun seafood. It was phenomenal. So
interesting combo.
Yeah, so Big George went with us, man. We gave it a high score. It was in the high 8s, and which is elite barbecue for us. So we went and did that, and I got to do it. And then different people see it and say, it looks pretty fun. And then you see people watching it. And I got another one this week. Go ahead and throw it out there. John Stinchcomb's going to do it with me on this Friday. So, maybe we can get Stinchcomb on the show with us one night as well. Yeah. He's the smartest dude ever played with. So I don't know. He may be too smart for us.
That's funny. What was the best thing? So what did you try when you went to Hattie Marie's?
Hattie Marie's.
What'd you try?
We got the sampler. We had briskets, beef ribs, spare ribs, turkey, mac and cheese, collard greens, baked beans.
What was the best thing you ate? Give me one side and one.
The mac and cheese. Mac and cheese off the freaking chain.
Yeah.
If you're in the South, they don't make good mac and cheese. I don't know that you can get good scores. And theirs was phenomenal. Best mac and cheese I've had in a long, long time.
Wow.
And then their ribs. I'm actually a rib man.
Yeah.
I did not know that until recently, but their ribs are great. So
ribs, you got to do ribs right. And I've had them both ways, when they were done very, very wrong, and then you eat them and you're like, I'm not a rib person. And then you try good ribs and you're like, oh my gosh, these are so good. But me personally, I don't know how to barbecue, obviously, which is why
we did not have turkey, by the way. We had chicken. And their chicken, they smoked it and then flash fried it. Crispy crust, juicy on the inside. So I was confusing it with somewhere else. Yeah.
Good. Cool.
Chicken. It was great. So
Wait, where you going this upcoming Friday? Where?
I don't know where we're going yet, but John Stinchcomb's going with us.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if you mentioned that already.
That's the great thing about my kind of the old school word Rolodex. Do you know what a Rolodex is?
Yeah, isn't it like your like what is it? Is it contacts?
Yeah,
Like,
it's your contact list for iPhones.
Yeah.
Like my Rolodex has a bunch of old offensive linemen who enjoy being fat in their lives. So trying to convince former offensive linemen to go eat barbecue with me, and then
It's not hard.
No, it's not hard. And then I tell them, hey, will you also come on the podcast and talk about eating barbecue with us? Like, okay. So it works.
There you go. Well, we are looking forward to that. Russ, last week, you gave me homework. You said if you go to a butcher shop and order spinalis,
Spinalis.
is that what it's called?
Yeah.
What would you come out with? And I did some research, and I believe it is the cap of the ribeye. It's the most tender part of the ribeye, correct? So it's a steak.
It is. It's ribeye.
So it's a ribeye. So when you order a ribeye,
Yeah.
but when you order a ribeye at a
Yeah.
restaurant, but they're not going to give you spinalis if you order a ribeye, will
No.
they? Unless you.
The spinalis is over the gristle on the ribeye.
Okay.
It's great. You got to go to a butcher shop to get it.
Yeah.
There's elite things in food, Bobby. Spinalis is one of the elite things of food.
How would you cook it?
Hot and fast. That's the only way. You sear it. You knock the horns off of him, wipe his old nasty tail, and throw him on the plate. Watch The Cowboy. That's a great movie, by the way.
Would you? I mean, what are you going to season it with?
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper. That's it.
What's your other options?
I don't know. A nice marinade.
No.
No. Okay.
No. A man who
no
marinate,
rosemary and butter or something like that.
I mean,
I've seen
that. That'd be
that.
fine if you want to do that. There ain't nothing wrong with that, by the way. But I don't know. I'm traditional. A lot of guys like that is sous vide. I don't even know how to say it. I'm
what
too
is
ready.
that?
Sous vide. How you say it? How's it? You know how to say it? We got my other friend Bobby's there with us. Sous vide. That's a French word. You like boil it or something. I don't know. People think it's the best way to do it. They're wrong too. It should be cooked over live coals with a smoke and fire. Be a man about your steak.
That reminds me of those like videos of like if you break a finger, it's like don't go to the doctor. Just like tape it up. Be a man.
Be a
man.
man.
Seen those videos? Yeah.
Yeah. I separated my shoulder in the spring game of 2003. Dove for a ball. There's a fumble. I dove for the ball. When I dove, it bounced out, and somebody landed on the back of my arm, and my shoulder popped out the front, and it was out. I went to the sideline like this, and Coach Van Gorder was my coach that day. You had the red team and the black team, and Coach Van Gorder was my head coach. He said, "What's wrong with Tanner?" And our trainer said, "Coach, he's got a shoulder dislocation, severe subluxation." He's like, "Can he go?" They're like, "I don't know. It's a pain tolerance issue." He looked at me and said, "Tape an aspirin to it and get your sorry butt back on the field." He didn't say it exactly that nice either, was the thing about it. So, yeah, sometimes you got to tape an aspirin to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when you're cooking a real steak, just put some salt and pepper and put it over the fire, dog.
Did he sound exactly like that too?
Probably worse.
Okay. But
Yeah.
he sounded like a 90-year-old.
Do it again for Tanner. Yes.
All right. You got any homework for me this week?
I don't know. You always like mess me up with this whole homework thing. I didn't know it was going to be part of our deal. So,
listen, I am on the show to learn because you know a lot.
Yes.
But you claim to not know a lot. I know
not much.
I know so little.
Right.
That you seem like a professor, which he doesn't want to be called professor, but that's okay. So to me, he's professor, but nobody has to know that. So that's why I ask, what kind of homework? What is something that you think that I don't know? I mean, and there's
if
a
you
lot.
buy an inch thick pork chop, what internal temperature should you cook it to before you eat it?
We'll be back next week with the answer, everyone, because I have no clue. But yeah, I guess
I feel good about it, man. I think we've done a good job tonight. So
I think so too.
Either Roddy's going to say, "Hey, don't screw up the audio feed like that again, or else you're fired," or he's going to say, "Hey, that wasn't terrible."
Listen, yeah, Roddy, I hope you're watching this, and I hope you missed the whole minute and a half that we had no video. But anyways, we'll be back next week. Hopefully, we'll have Roddy back controlling the boards here to help keep this whole thing together. He was the glue that held this whole thing together. But
Russ, Bobby, Roddy, and of course David Green next week.
Stay tuned for that. And yeah, we appreciate you guys joining the show, and we will look forward to catching you guys next week with David Green.
Go Dogs. Go Dogs.